Hello, folks, and welcome to HearthBreakers, where hearts are broken and cards are played. We are a new podcast aimed at breaking down the current meta for you by diving into the amazing pool of decks that both we, the pros, and the winners of minor as well as bigger tournaments use to make a deep analysis of each deck. And at the end of each podcast, we'll make a deck challenge for the four of us, where we try to use some unconventional cards in different decks with different classes. That's basically the idea. You'll be able to find the topics in the description, as well as timestamps for each topic, so you can skip to what you want to hear about. Also, first of all, we should probably introduce ourselves. Myself, I'm Henry. I have some experience with card games before. I played some Yu-Gi-Oh! And apart from that, I've been playing a lot of Blizzard's games and really enjoy doing so. And that is no exception with HearthStone. So let's go on to Chris. Introduce yourself.
That's me. I have, as well as Hendrik, I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh a lot, and I've have my card game experience from there. But I have also played a lot of Blizzard games, World of Warcraft especially, and I've played a lot of League of Legends and other mobile games as well.
Yeah, sounds great. And Dario, wanna share some words?
Yes, my name is Dario. I'm also known as Dorathor in most games. I've played a lot of different games over the years, especially some card games such as Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic TCG. Also a little bit of poker here and there. And currently I play a lot of HearthStone, which I think is an amazing game. And I'm looking forward to all of the coming Hearthstone changes and such. Yep.
Great. And the last shining diamond here, the line of free, Michael.
Thank you. I'm Michael, also known as Monk Business, and as well as the other guys, I have a background in Yu-Gi-Oh! Been playing it for 8 years, so I'm kind of a card fanatic. And thus I play Hearthstone now, since I'm a Blizzard fan and Yu-Gi-Oh! Kind of got shit, so yeah, that's basically why I'm here.
You need that fix.
I need the fix, indeed.
Exactly. Not too shabby, eh? So, yeah, so what we'll actually do right now is, as you know, there was quite a new patch coming up here, so we're going to cover some of the changes for this particular patch. And I want to start up with the Blood Imp, actually. As you know, it got nerfed from being a 1/1 with the effect that all your minions got 1 plus health into being a monster with 0 attack now, and it gives 1 health to a random monster at the end of the turn, just like the Young Priestess does, actually. So how do you think this affects the card and the meta itself, Chris?
I think it's quite a huge nerf to the Rush Warlock deck that was really popular before. I think Blood Imp might still see some play, but it will not necessarily only be in Rush decks. I think it can do well sitting just invisible next to a big minion buffing it. Being able to trade favorably over multiple turns. I think it still has possibilities to be played, but I really feel it's not as good as it was before.
Yeah. And I believe actually in the early game that its effect is still almost the same in the very early game, turn 2 or so, where it's really important. I don't know, what do you think about that, Dario?
Man, if you have seen the horrors of double Blood Imp turn 1, man, that is some serious shit. Like if you play 2 Blood Imps on turn 1, like with a coin or so, they just keep buffing each other and you can never get rid of them. And they'll just be there and buff all of your minions for the next, forever. Because you basically won't be able to kill them.
Yeah, exactly.
And but generally, I think it was a nerf, but it also, it actually made Blood Imps better sometimes in the early game. But generally, the problem is that now the effect is not instant as it was before, so you cannot just play it out and then trade your minions favorably. You have to actually play it in advance, and then your opponent has usually has time to react to them before you can make the favorable trades. So that's an issue.
Yeah, that's right. Also, I was thinking about the fact that it actually got nerfed with one attack, so it got from 1 attack to 0. Maybe you could have some other thoughts about that, Michael, and maybe you can also elaborate on the attack factor here.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Dario that the instant effect is a huge part of the nerf to Blood Imp, and as Henry said, that one attack can make a huge difference, both because you cannot trade it for that one extra damage you need to kill the Ragnaros or Ysera or whatever. Now you can't really get rid of him yourself in any way. And often you have something like Hellfire where it's going to die anyways, but you can't get that one attack through. So definitely a change.
Yeah. So, but overall, it's a nerf, and as we also see, there's still Rush Warlock decks, but it's not that popular as it was in that era of the Blood Imp. So, and the next card here under this is actually it has had a huge impact on the meta, like just recently. It's actually Unleash the Hounds. We've been seeing a lot of Hunter on the ladder these days. It's kind of disappearing a little bit, but what are your opinion about this, Chris?
I think Unleash the Hounds went from being really bad cards with the 4 mana cost to being partly what Blizzard intended, being the AoE clear. But I think it maybe got a little too strong because it sets up the maybe not one-turn kill potential, but definitely sets up heavily rush potential with total ignorance of the opponent's field. You're not. The deck we are seeing are not trying to trade; they just want to go directly, and that was not the intention that Blizzard wanted. But I think the card is really, really strong right now, and should be played in the rush decks. Of course, yeah, I think it's a really good card now.
Yeah, I think so too. And as you say, for the direct damage, we have this particular 27 combo where they play Leroy as well as Unleash the Hounds plus a Timberwolf, and they can really unleash a lot of damage there. What do you think about Unleash the Hounds in Control Hunter, Dario? Now we can talk a little bit about the Rush. How do you think it fares in the Control version of the deck?
I've seen some Control Hunters do pretty well, but generally the biggest problem I face with Control Hunter is kind of the issue I face with Warlock as well, that I don't know that it's Control Hunter before it's too late. They might even throw out some early game drops, and then suddenly you're just suddenly hit by a multi-shot out of nowhere, and then you're like, well, I guess I'm screwed. But I think the biggest problem with Control Hunter is that you don't know it's Control Hunter, and when you don't play around Control Hunter cards, they actually have some pretty powerful spells that can really screw you up. So yeah,
I think you're right. We see a very kind of clear distinction between the Control Hunter and the Rush Hunter, and I think Unleash the Hounds definitely has a place in both decks, and it's definitely a big buff. But Michael, do you have anything to like round this up?
Not really. Unleash the Hounds made Control Hunter viable, I think, as well as the Rush deck getting popular. Like Dorothor said, it changes like the way you mulligan for Hunter is usually against Rush Hunter, and then you can get screwed by these multi-shot and deadly shot and so on. But I think Unleash the Hounds at 2 mana is now the strongest card in Hunter, since it gets you 2 or 3 instant damage and 2 or 3 extra cards on your hand if you have the Bossed, and there's just so much synergy you can do with it, so it's definitely strong.
Also because it's that cheap, like you can throw it out and it's only 2 mana and you actually get a bunch of minions.
Yeah, definitely.
And they're beasts, so they have great synergy with all Kill Command, Houndmaster, so on.
I think actually one of the biggest problems with Unleash the Hounds, that I think is that it has really, really good synergy with all of the 100 cards. Like some of the cards just get absolutely insane with Unleash the Hounds. And for that, I feel the mana cost is too low. Not for the effect itself, maybe, but for the potential synergy with the 2 mana cost. It's like turn 4, you can basically draw, like get a full field, clear your opponents, and draw 3 cards or something. It's insane.
Yeah. I think the problem here as a Yu-Gi-Oh player is the logic behind the game. Since for bosses, for example, if you summon 3 Unleash the Hounds dudes, you get 3 cards. But in most other card games, you would consider it summoned at the same time, so you'd only draw 1 card. So that's why Unleash the Hounds is so strong.
Yeah, some of the mechanics here, they're not working just like they do in most other card games, but that's how it is. As it shows, the Rush Hunter is kind of falling off now. That we still see it now and again, but it's not that dominant force that it was. So I don't think that they should like nerf Unleash the Hounds just right now. It would be a stupid idea. They have to kind of let it fall into its place in the meta, I believe. And the next card we have up is Charge, I believe. Yeah, and Charge got changed from being 0 mana and giving a minion charge into being 3 mana and giving +2 attack to a minion and charge. So the reason that got nerfed obviously was because of this OTK warrior deck that was there with the Alexstrasza, Gore Howl, and then charge on the Alexstrasza. That's exactly 15 damage. So do you think that nerf is like appropriate? We can start with Dario this time.
Both yes and no. Appropriate in the way that I don't like the OTK, and I doubt many people do. But the problem is that before the OTK, Charge was a pretty shitty card. And basically now Charge is an even more shitty card. It's actually just absolutely terrible now. And
it is shit.
Even though it was absolutely terrible before, it had some uses where the OTK was obviously the most predominant one. So yeah, they like, what does it give? Like charge and 2 damage for 3 mana. Yeah. So it gives 2 damage for 3 mana. That's like absolutely terrible. Like that is like Cold Blood gives 2 damage for 1 mana, and you can get it to 4 damage. Like it's just retarded bad. So yeah.
Yeah, but I believe they had to make the nerf because OTKs. Blizzard also said that they don't want OTKs in the game if they can avoid it. It takes away a lot of enjoy of the game. What do you think about that, Michael? Blizzard's choice in nerfing a card like Charge because it's an OTK.
I definitely agree on the philosophy. It is something that Konami, if I make the reference once again, doesn't do. So I'm definitely grateful that Blizzard don't want these OTKs around, since they are simply not fun to play against.
And if you don't know, Konami is the firm that makes Yu-Gi-Oh! Just
yeah. And yeah, I definitely agree to change it. I think they could have left it at 2 mana. I don't know if they're afraid of Alexstrasza and Coin. I don't know. That might be the case. But at 3 mana, I would expect something more, like 2 attack more at least, if not even more effects, like just draw a card, replace itself, something like that.
Yeah. I think I agree with that. Also, if we have to think about uses for Charge here, it is a shitty card right now, but could you imagine like any deck where it would fit in? If I try to ask you, Chris. And also, you have something else to say?
Yeah, no, not really, because the intention with Charge is to kill people, right? Like that was the really good use of that card, to just throw it out on something and kill someone right away, because it brings the surprise factor. And you can't really do that with the OTK anymore. If you wanted to keep the card, like the other problem card with the OTK is Alexstrasza, which sets up the OTK so consistently. And yeah, it seems that they didn't want to change Alexstrasza. So they decided to change Charge, and as Dario said, they changed it into an even more horrible card that I don't see any use for in any deck, as you suggest.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Not in this current meta anyway.
Yeah.
So I think that's what was it for Charge. So now the next one here is Pyroblast, one of my favorite nerfs. Man, I've raged about this shitty fucking card so many times.
Yes, you have.
What do you think about what do you think about this massive nerf to our good old Pyroblast? It got from 8 mana to 10 mana. What do you think, Michael?
Yeah, it's the same philosophy used for Pyroblast nerf from Blizzard as the Charge nerf. That they simply don't want to the game to be unfun. And Pyroblast is like mind control, just a hair ripping, irritating card, which doesn't promote like interactivity between players. Since there's no action going on, you're just waiting and then throwing shit at his face, and then you win. And I think another aspect, since it got nerfed by 2 mana here, is outside of the you play it later, is the fact that before it basically did 11 damage with the hero power, and I have won so many games where they had 11 health and I had Pyroblast, so that's definitely a welcome change.
Yeah. I also read that Blizzard's entire point is actually to promote board control into the game. As you also said correctly, that Pyroblast really makes it an interactive game. They just sit behind their Blizzards and their Frost Novas, their Cone of Coals, and wait until they can use these Pyroblasts. And it makes the game kind of boring to be the counterpart of just waiting to die by a Pyroblast. So what do you think about Blizzard promoting board control by nerfing a card like this, Dario?
Well, first of all, I like board control. It's a good way to play the game, and it makes the game exciting. However, I'm not sure how I feel about the nerf, because yes, Pyroblast was a really good card, and sometimes it felt really unfair to play against. But also, in many ways, I feel like the card was a necessary card, so to say, because just because it existed, it kept some decks in check, basically. Like it was a counter to certain decks, and with Pyroblast basically removed as it is, well, not removed, but much less frequent, those decks see a lot more play, like the Giant's Warlock, which is currently being played a lot and also doing really well. For that deck, the Aggro Mage was a natural counter, and without Aggro Mage and some of the other nerfs and buffs and such, the Giant's Warlock sees a lot more play.
Yeah, you're right about that. Also, one thing that I've heard a lot of people speaking about is actually they should maybe nerf it to 9 mana instead of 10. What do you think about that, Chris? This talk?
I think putting it to 9 mana instead of 10 would definitely have been an option. I don't see anything wrong in that. Because as Michael said, what was really annoying was the fact that they could both throw it out and ping. And even at 9 mana, it would still be a turn later than at 8. As you said, I kind of like that it's gone because I don't play Mage myself. So I'm kind of happy not to get to have thrown Pyroblast at me all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels like Mage is now just the weakest deck. So they might need something else in return. Like, it seems like Mage is just the weakest deck right now.
Yeah, I kind of agree that Mage is pretty weak right now, but that's also pretty much a result of, like, I don't know, Mage got nerfed, I think, 3 patches in a row or 2 patches in a row, and
true.
It's pretty brutal nerfs. Like, pretty much all of the very good Mage cards have been nerfed, and even though I mained Shaman before, and I also main Shaman now, and I basically like Shaman before was really good against most decks, or my deck was, except I almost always lost to aggro mage because the lack of heals. And even though I lost that much to aggro mage, I still felt like Pyroblast was necessary, even though I'm kind of biased. So
Yeah. Now what I want to ask about here, the last point about Power Blast, because I think it's so crucial, is do you think maybe Blizzard could have done this because they want to promote the secret mage play that we don't see because it's so bad right now? Do you think this nerf will actually maybe make some people think about making a secret mage deck, Michael?
If I think you might be right, but the problem is really that the secrets still suck, even if Pyroblast is not good.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people will be disenchanting Pyroblast and then say, "Hey, I got 400 dust. Let me make a spellbender." Not gonna happen. So I think the secrets, it's a matter of maybe time. It might never happen, but it's not like the cards are absolutely bad. They could be viable, in my honest opinion. So I guess it's just not the meta right now, and haven't been since the game was released. But it might happen eventually. But in general, I think Mage only have good basic cards, but they are pretty good, I guess.
Yeah.
So
You're right about that.
Yeah, I'm happy with my 400 dust.
So now, I think that's it for Power Blast for this time. So the next card on the list is Warsong Commander, which got nerfed from giving all minions charge to giving charge to minions with 3 or less attack. When you play them, you need your Warsong Commander on the field when you play these minions. Which is also quite a huge nerf. So what do you think about this, Chris? This Warsong Commander nerf?
Well, once again, it's to get rid of the warrior OTKs, the other OTK deck that was around, with the Molten Giants, and I think I like the way they did it, because when you throw a minion on the field and it gets charged, even if there are no silly mechanics with your what is it called, the one that gives charge, Warsong Commander, when it leaves the field they lose charge, that no longer happens, and you can still do all the cool plays with Raging Worgen. It gets charged and you can enrage it afterwards, and it still has charge, the way that they made it. So I like the way Blizzard changed it when they wanted to get rid of the golem charge.
Yeah, obviously the big change here was that it can only give to minions of 3 or less attack now.
Yeah.
So do you think that this will open possibilities for some kind of rush warrior deck or something like that? Maybe, Dario?
Currently you see a lot of, not a lot of, but you see some rush warrior on the ladder. And I believe you even told me yourself a bit about that, so you can probably comment on that some more. But the Warsong nerf, it was justified, but I feel like putting it to 3 damage or less is a bit too low, because that basically means that you cannot put it as your 3-drop, because your 4-drop will probably have like 4 damage or so. Like generally your 4-drop will have 4 damage, so it won't benefit from the charge, which is basically like terrible. So I think to make it balanced and actually useful, it would be 4 damage or less.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Do you have some elaborating comments here, Michael, on this? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't believe to hear the hate on the endless loops from you. I know you tried to make a summoning portal deck with endless knife jugglers because you thought could get to below 0 cost, but yeah. Yeah. Just Michael breaking the game and failing. But yeah, but I think this nerf to Warzone Command also did was actually open up for the control version of the warrior deck, which is quite popular right now also on the ladder.
Yeah.
So I think that's pretty nice. I like that one more than all the OTK shit. When you can actually play for board control, it's a lot more interesting. And I think that's about it for the Warzone Commander here.
Yeah.
Now, next one up here is the Dark Iron Dwarf, which got a little nerf, I would say. It still gives a 2 damage to a minion, but it only lasts for 1 turn. So this changes some plays. It helps out Priest a little bit. Maybe Chris can try and talk about this.
Yeah, the thing about Dark Iron Dwarf, yeah,
I have a comment. If
yeah, Michael, you can take it. I don't know.
Sure. Dark Iron Dwarf it's in general a slight nerf, but it's not that bad. Because before, if you had nothing on the field and your opponent had something, you had to buff it. But now you can play it just as a 4/4, and the effect, if you buff the opponent, will just disappear. So it has that going for it. And of course, the no longer constantly 2 attack buff is a nerf, since you cannot buff something like a Harvest Golem up to a 4/3. It will become a 2/3 again and not be that annoying. So in that aspect, it's a nerf. I think, yeah.
Yeah, what we did see a lot before was actually also that the Dark Iron Dwarf buffs your turn 3 drop to either 4 or 5 attack, depending on what free drop you had. And then you'll just trade with that instantly. So in that way, it doesn't make too much of an impact on the use of Dark Iron Dwarf. In some situations, it can be a nerf, but it's really not bad. But I think it was needed, though. I don't know. What do you think, Dario? Dario?
Yeah. I don't know. Well, like it's already been mentioned, it's a nerf technically, but I also kind of like it as a buff. Like, yeah. Most of the times you usually use it to trade anyway. So.
Yeah. Another important little fun fact to mention is actually that Priest can now use Dark Iron Dwarfs to get them into a Shadow Word.
Oh, they could before.
They could before as well.
Yeah, I guess.
It's worth mentioning that I don't think this really was a metagame reaction, but more general, just to make it easier to understand, and because now it has I think we're going to talk about Abuser Sergeant in a moment, but now Abuser Sergeant and Dark Iron Dwarf have the exact same effect, so there's no confusion. I just think that is why they did it.
Yeah. And the next card up here, I think we rounded up the Dark Iron Dwarf pretty well here. It's the Defender of Argus coming back, which went from being a 3/3, giving taunts to adjacent units, to being a 2/3 and still giving taunt to adjacent units. So, what do you think about this nerf? Personally, I think it was needed because it was just such a strong card. You can take it from here, Dario.
Take someone else.
I can take it.
Yeah, sure.
I really agree on the nerf, because the card, if it hits 2 targets with its effect, before it was basically a 5/5 monster that gave taunt to 2 targets, and that is just it simply does just too much for a 4 mana monster. The way they changed it, it's still really good, because against some rush matchups you will need the taunt, and it still has 3 health, which was the big problem with both Argent Commander and Sun the Cleric, because they dropped to 2 health and lost a whole lot of play to that. Yeah, because 3 health is a lot better than 2. So in that aspect, Defender of Argus didn't lose much of its playability, because you mainly played it for the effect anyway. But of course it lost a little power, since it's not since it doesn't have 3 attack anymore, but only 2. But despite the nerf, it still sees a whole lot of play many places. So
Yeah.
I like the nerf, and I think it's still a good card.
You cannot use it to destroy harvest golems anymore, so that's a bit sad.
I-
But what do you
Yeah.
think about it, Michael?
I think a little thing I have noticed is that people play a lot of Acolytes of Pain now, which is really annoying. And I think that is because of Defender of Argus, I claim. No, but the biggest change for Defender of Argus is really that now, if you throw it on one creature, it doesn't feel good. Where before, if you threw the effect just on one creature, it was alright. If you counted Taunt as one stat, then it would be a 3/3, and then give 3 stats to one creature, which makes it a 4/5 like a Yeti, so that's still fine. But now it's 2/3, and if you only use it on one creature, it's a 4/4 for 4, which is really bad. So, like if you hit 2 creatures, it doesn't matter. If it has 1 attack less, doesn't matter. But you don't feel great about using it on only one target now.
Yeah, I agree on this one. Now, I think that's it for the Argos. It was kind of a minor change. I think we can agree it was necessary. Now, the next one here is our little gnomish novice engineer, or Fire Blast Magnet, as we like to call her now. But, what do you think about her being nerfed from 2 HP to 1, Chris?
I think it was definitely needed, because the card was just so good that everyone who could play it played it, and that shouts out, I need to be nerfed. The card was basically just a floater, and it had better stats. Like it was just a paladin hero power with an extra health. Yeah, it was just really good. And now it's a Fire Blast Magnet, and I don't really like it. It's playable in some decks, but like you don't play it in Pala and in Shaman Immo, then you're doing something wrong, because you have the exact same ability with a Paladin hero power, and I think the Shaman totems are better than a 1/1.
I agree. Now, do you have anything to elaborate here, Dario? Like the novice engineer nerf?
Oh, well, I don't know. I feel like nerfing novice engineer, yes, it did fill the purpose of that. Now other cards see more play, but I feel like the alternatives were pretty clear already. And for that current metagame, yes, novice engineer did see much play, but against some classes like Loot Hoarder was better. Against like classes that couldn't ping it, and now it's just much better, like in almost every situation, which makes it pretty shitty. Like Novice Engineer is worse than Lightwell. Like Lightwell fucking shits on Novice Engineer.
I disagree, I think.
But yeah.
Yeah, the 1/1 is really a shitty stat, but as you mentioned, the Loot Hoarders, a lot of people have just changed out their Novice Engineers for Loot Hoarders. I haven't seen much of Loot Hoarder play on the ladder at all. It happens a few times, but there are still loops on the ladder. We have to remember that. But I want to talk about the Novice Engineer versus Loot Hoarder. What do you think about this, Michael?
I think that before, Novice Engineer was almost always better. since it didn't have 1 HP, so it wasn't fragile to all these hero powers, and you got the effect instant, which meant in the late game you could draw it, use it, have 8 mana, and still play a turn. Whereas Loot Hoarder, you would play it out and just look stupid. Sometimes you even had to use your own Fireball on the Loot Hoarder to get its effect, and then you only have 6 mana to play with. I think the nerf is welcome, but it is also in a weird spot where it is now really weak. But I don't really mind it since it was in every deck before, which was really annoying.
Well, do you agree? Do you agree? Like they basically removed the card. Like
I disagree.
Well, I can't remember the last time I've seen a Novice Engineer. Like I honestly can't remember when I've seen it last time on the ladder. Like
I think
I've played a lot lately.
I believe personally that in the late game it's actually better because as Michael rightly says that it's but you really don't want Novice Engineer in the late game.
Exactly. Like
you want them in turn 2 preferably.
Why would you play Novice Engineer in your deck
for the late game
as a 2-drop if you want to draw it in the late game?
No, that the thing was that it was good before early and you could use it in the late game. It's not good in the late game. Now it's even worse early, and it has the same role late game, but if you can't play it early, what is the point? I think Novice Engineer have more of a niche now, which means if you need it in decks that are combo oriented, I have seen Rogue played on high level in tournament. I saw the Liquid Heart tournament, and he played Novice Engineer just to combo, and because he had the 1 win condition, which was basically Leroy and Shadow Step, so he wanted to draw that card, and then he used Novice Engineer.
Well, let me ask you this question then: when would you ever play Novice Engineer if not for Rogue?
I don't know, but is it?
I don't know.
Is it really a problem?
Through your deck.
I guess you could. You could. The thing about Mage is they have the Acolyte of Pain, which is just. I think it is simply better.
Both,
but I don't really agree with your argument, since maybe you have Novice Engineer only in Rogue, but you also only have Acolyte of Pain in Mage and in Warrior. And maybe
Rogue, I've seen it as well. Like I've seen Acolyte in a lot of decks recently, actually. In Rogue, in Mage, in Warrior, in Net Pagel has seen a lot of play recently as well. So,
well, the point I tried to
I think the problem really with Novice Engineer is just that it dies to all these ping abilities in the early game.
Definitely.
Sorry. And that's just the point of this. And I really think we have to leave this poor girl alone. She has suffered enough losing an HP. So let's jump on to the next card, which is Sylvanas Windrunner. It's a 5/5 legendary, and before it was 5 mana, now it's 6. The Death Rattle effect is that it can take control of a random enemy minion. Which is really, really strong, and it was played in almost every deck before, actually. So, what do you think about her role now in this particular meta, Dario?
Well, since the Sylvanas nerf, you've seen a lot more different legendaries, like because the 6 mana slot is a lot more contested than the 5 mana slot, and that's currently the problem I find with Sylvanas, is that I still feel like it's a good card and I really want to play it, but usually most classes that I want to play it in have a better 6 mana drop. Like for example, my Shaman deck, it has like Fire Elemental at 6 and possibly Sunwalker. But yeah, I feel like Sylvanas is still a pretty good card, but especially against control decks. Like Druids have really few odds to Sylvanas. They have to basically use Tankmaster on it. So yeah, against some decks it's really good. Against some it's not that good, but it's definitely not the have this card in all of your decks or lose card.
No, I think before you just had her in your deck and you dropped her because it was a nice 5-drop. Now you see a lot more play where she actually has her, like you use her as a utility by dropping her and then using your own spells to destroy her, for example. In the I play the Mountain Giant deck myself, and Shadow Flame under Sylvanas when you're against a giant and a lot of shitty monsters is really a strong move. And also I believe you can use Execute on it if you play Warrior, right?
Yeah, you can.
So that's some ways to use her.
Also, people have recently been playing a lot of Sunwalkers, and it's a pretty popular move to just like give her taunt with Sunwalker. Like basically, like
What?
they have to kill it.
You mean Sunfury Protector?
Yeah, Sunfury Protector. Sorry,
Yeah.
the two mana give taunt.
Yeah.
The guy. Yeah.
Michael, do you have something to say about our Sylvanas here?
I before it was an auto include. I think you already mentioned that the 5/5 for 5 was a good monster to drop. Even if your opponent has no creatures on the field. Recently, I think the meta have actually changed a lot. I see way more mid-range and early game decks right now, and Sylvanas feels very weak and is actually not used in all decks anymore. So I think the nerf is welcome, since now it's obviously not an auto include. It's more of a meta, not niche, since it is very strong in general, but more niche than before. Yeah. So it's not really super strong in the meta right now, but it is a strong card in general.
Yeah. Now, since we are trying to go in depth with the most cards here, maybe Chris, I could get you to explain how it works if two Sylvanas dies at the same time.
Oh, thanks for that one.
Do you know that? Or?
I believe that it works the way that the monster or the Sylvanas that was played first triggers first, and the other Sylvanas, the one that was played last, that Sylvanas effect resolves first. Say I don't know. Player 1 has Sylvanas that was played first, and player 2 has Sylvanas that was played afterwards. They both have another monster. If they hit into each other and die, player 2's will act. The effect will resolve first, take the monster, and player 1's Sylvanas will trigger afterwards and take one of the two monsters.
Yeah, so it's basically always best to throw a Sylvanas late if you're in a Sylvanas versus Sylvanas situation.
I don't know.
Suppose.
What I do, I usually just try to avoid the situation where I have to, I don't know, hope that it works as I think it does, because if it doesn't, it just screws me over.
Yeah. We should also mention that this, of course, also works the way with a Cairn and Harvest Golem.
Oh, yeah. The thing is that Sylvanas Windrunner is apparently another kind of death rattle effect than Cairn. So even if you played the Cairn first and Sylvanas second, it doesn't work the same way as two Sylvanas, where the first activates first. If you attack a Cairn with a Sylvanas and Cairn dies, usually doesn't matter which one was first put on the field, Sylvanas will just trigger before Cairn will summon a new dude. Yeah. So I really hope that Blizzard will get more consistent in the future, and I actually hope that they in general will get rid of this whole played first mechanic, since it annoys me a lot as a Yu-Gi-Oh player, at least.
Well,
but
the played first mechanic is probably a result of lazy
programming.
Lazy coding, programming, because it's probably just a like an array Then when it plays effects, you just play it from the start of the array.
Oh yeah.
That's how I imagine it, at least. But to be honest, personally, like I don't know about you guys, but I'm a fan of the YOLO approach to Sylvanas. Basically,
please.
You play it, you attack the Sylvanas, and you hope the best thing happens.
No.
Don't do it.
YOLO is fun sometimes, but
Don't do this at home, guys.
No, it's so bad.
Yeah. I'm just a fan of, as Chris also says, just avoiding that shitty situation. You never know what's going to happen. So,
dude, YOLO.
YOLO is the way to go about it. Now, I think that's actually all the cards we skipped on the Abusive Sergeant, but we kind of touched on it. That it just got its text changed to fit the Dark Iron Dwarf, so they fit each other. That's basically the only change. I don't know if you guys have anything to say about this card. Just
Abusive?
Yeah, Abusive Sergeant.
He is now playable in Priests, but I still prefer the Crazed Alchemist. So, I don't know, I don't really think it changed anything whatsoever.
Okay. So now we're done with the patch discussions, and I hope it helped some people. Now we want to throw out our decks that we play right now, just a very quick walkthrough of these. So let's start with Darius' deck. Or Chris's deck. Or Michael's deck.
Which deck do you want to?
You can take mine. Is
okay.
Okay.
Sure, that is the one called Cardi, right?
Chris plays the Priest, I think.
Priest deck.
Yeah, it's the one called Cardi, right?
Yeah.
I'm getting no response from the Brain AFK dude.
Yeah, sorry.
So let's go.
Yeah. Okay. The deck is intended to build towards late game, with a few strong mid game drops, especially in Twilight Drake. Then I have a lot of field clear with Wild Pyromancer and the Auctionized Soul Priest to take rush decks, and then I have a lot of legendaries to drop late game. You would say I'm missing Ragnaros in there, but I ended up disliking it because I played a lot of Druid matchups, and it was the only target for Big Game Hunter, so they always had it when I dropped it. Thus I ended up with Sylvanas. Definitely, I like it way more. The deck often goes... it often draws out against like the other late game decks, but through Thoughtsteel and Isera, that both has the ability to give you cards without drawing through your own deck. It actually has quite a good matchup when aiming for a draw out. I have had some trouble with getting rushed down. Maybe it's the playstyle that I do. I play really conservative and have a lot of cards in hand, thus Twilight Drake is good. But yeah, I tend to be rushed down and would maybe like to have a few Taunters in there. But I had a single Sunwalker in it, but I took it out because I was getting annoyed by Ragnaros, then the one Taunter, the Sunwalker, getting hit by the Black Knight every time. And it just seemed like a really good idea to have no targets for either of those played cards. Thus, they would just sit silly in the opponent's hand.
What is your why did you choose not to play Injured Blade Master? We see a lot of that in these priest decks coming up now and then.
I think the original thought was to aim for more late game, and that it maybe was too early game, but back then I didn't play. I didn't have the two Auctionized Soul Priests as well, and thus I didn't play the one Circle of Healing. I think if I was to remake the deck, maybe I would. I think I might put in the two Injured Blade Masters and another Circle of Healing. to take early control of the board. One thing that is really important to say about the deck, though, is the ability to take the opponent's cards. Despite I'm not playing mind control, I felt it clogged my hand too much. I played 2 Shadow Madness and a Cabal Shadow Priest. I'd maybe play another Cabal Shadow Priest if I had it, but I don't.
What
Those cards. Yeah.
What was your thought process while choosing between Visera and Ragnaros? I believe you had to make that decision at some point.
Yeah, I stated it. It was about actually I stated both reasons. The one was Big Game Hunter and Ragnaros being the only target, and the other one was Ysera being able to give me resources playing into the very late game, where total cards in the deck matters.
Yeah, okay.
I think in general, on the same topic, that Ysera is better if you're playing for the control very late game, and Ragnaros is better if you're playing the kind of mid-range where you have to keep the pressure going. That at least is the way I see it. And the problems with Rush, I can understand, since your only AoE is Holy Nova outside of Circle of Healing and Arcanine.
Pyromancer,
yeah. So I guess Wild Pyromancer will win most of those matchups. I do have a question though about Twilight Drake. Why you're playing it, and if you are having problems with Earthshock as a result.
Yeah, if they throw Earthshock, it's a problem, of course. But generally, I haven't hit it into Earthshocks much, and I think it has tested really, really, really well. Often, it goes out as a 4/7 at least if I throw it turn 4. And it's just a Yeti with 2 extra health. The most common response to it that annoys me is the Druid of the... No, not the Druid of the... Keeper of the Grove, Silence. Of course, Earthshock would be more annoying, but I just don't see it very much. It has tested really good. I really like it. The biggest problem has been when I don't find time to play it, because I play against rush decks and I have to remove their field instead of playing it, and it just sits in the hand for too long.
So
but I think it's really good.
That might be one of the cards you could consider for injured or what?
Yeah, I think they kind of take the same role. I think injured might be an option if I wanted to tweak my deck towards having more board control. I think that's definitely an option.
In my priest deck, I really like Injured Blade Master, actually, and the reason why I really like it is because it's basically a second Yeti. Like, you can have 4 Yetis, so why not?
But if you're not playing Yeti to begin with.
Yeah, that's I guess.
I think I would play Injured Blade Master before I'd play Yeti.
Yeah, I think it's better in Priest, actually, because you can just heal it.
Really
Dario,
well.
you look like a Yeti, so... Now, I think we'll go on to Michael's deck here.
Yeah, sure.
Yeti talk.
My magnificent mana grind deck here. One comment I will make fast here is that before I had the big dude. What is he called? I can't even remember.
Scenarios or?
No, the 10-drop that destroys everything.
Deathwing.
Oh yeah. Before I had Deathwing, but then the meta changed, and now I don't see the Warlock Giants anymore, really. So I took him out for a Yeti, and Yeti has been testing really good. So I might actually put one more in there. I might even drop Sylvanas. I talked about it before, but that is gonna take a lot of courage to drop. So, in general, this is a very basic deck. I only play one lore and one war instead of the usually you see the double lore and 0 war or double lore and 1 engine of war. But that is simply because I don't have the second lore, and I think Engine of War is good at 1. I like having the option to choose between them, where otherwise you would just have 2 of the same card. So if you draw both of them, I think 2 other notable card choices are the Loot Hoarders and Naturalize. I put the Loot Hoarders in to try to combat the early Rush Hunter decks, and I had Naturalize as a comeback for the very late game decks that I usually lose to, and Naturalize has been testing really great against Warlocks, but I haven't seen Warlock Giants in a week now, so I might change that card to a second Chillwind Yeti or something.
Yeah, this is really the age of the Yeti, it seems like. It's really popular. And it's a basic card, I think it's pretty good for new players, actually. That the Yeti is such an up-and-coming wild beast.
Yeah. It's interesting since Yeti is basically the king of Arena. And now he is having a comeback in the high-tier scene. So that's interesting. As well as Azure Drake making a 180, where it was almost a bad card, but now we are seeing 1s and 2s of it again.
Really good now.
Yeah.
In the more control-based kind of decks, I think. Now,
what did you want to say?
Something to say to Michael's deck?
Well, basically, I would say it looks just like a pretty well-rounded, does okay against every single deck kind of deck.
It's a little outdated compared to what.
Yeah, it's a bit outdated, but I believe you use it as your first deck in most tournaments because it's pretty good against has a fair matchup against pretty much any deck. So
exactly.
Yeah, and it's like a good mixture of rush and not rush, but kind of mid game. It's not super late game, and in the late game you can still come back with Naturalize if you suffer some heavy losses in the beginning, and you have the Wild Pyromancers in there to take care of the really fast rush decks like Warlock, Murloc stuff, as well as Hunter. So I think overall it does pretty well, this deck. Now Dario,
I would hope so.
Yeah.
You have your Shaman deck, right?
Indeed, I do.
Fire this bad boy up then.
My lord!
I've recently made a lot of changes to my deck. I guess most of the changes have been to give it a lot more early game draws compared to later in the game. I've added some unbound elementals because they do really well with all of your overload cards. And as well as that, like Yetis are just too good not to play currently, I feel like. And on top of that, it's basically just you win the mid game, you gain control mid game, and then you push for a lot of damage. It's a lot like the rogue decks were before, where the most popular rogue decks would always build a board and stabilize and gain control, and then they would just push for damage. And that's what I went with this deck. I went this is my most updated version, where I feel it fits the current meta with the mid to early game decks. In more late game version of Shaman, I would probably play Ragnaros as well as Alakir, which I used to do. But for this particular version and for this particular meta, I really like this deck, and it's brought me a lot of wins. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's nice. What I also have heard before about the Shaman deck in particular is that it's like a Jack of all trades kind of deck. You can make different versions of it, and you can make some rush, you can make some control, and I think what you got here has a pretty nice balance going on between these different playstyles. So, yeah. So now I guess it's my deck, right? Unless you have something to add
Not.
for Darius' deck.
Well, just quickly add, my favorite card in the deck will always be Ancestral Spirit, and even though I have taken some of the targets out for it, it's still a really amazing card. Like, you cannot underestimate how many games I've won because opponents don't have an out for it. It's just incredible. Like, if you play against a druid and they've played like one silencer, one keeper, and they've used their Tink Master, and you suddenly just drop a Earth Elemental with Ancestral on them, they've basically just lost the game. Like, if they don't have an instant out, it's just like, what are you gonna do about it? Like,
Tink Master.
Yeah, Tink Master to the rescue.
Yeah.
No,
but
but
that's also just the only one, right? Almost.
Yeah.
Not really, but silence. But
Yeah,
even if you
silence
silence
isn't
an
that good,
Earth,
yeah.
if you silence an Earth Elemental and you have to use a silence, it's still it can be pretty
You're
bad.
still getting raped, yeah, basically.
Yeah, like, Ancestral Spirit for silence is a pretty good trade if it's on an Earth Elemental. Like, it doesn't have taunt, but it's still gonna fuck you up.
The fun
Only
thing
thing
is,
that's really bad is like the Hex and the Tink Master.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, I never play. I usually never play Earth Elemental before I've seen Hexes used.
No.
Like, if I know, like, most people currently play Tink Master, and I usually never play Earth Elemental before I've seen a Tink Master come out, unless I really have to, or unless I'm convinced they don't have it, basically. So yeah.
I have a question. What is your reasoning for not playing Forked Lightning? As that seems like a good card to establish early game control.
I feel like with my current setup, I don't really need Forked Lightning. My problem with the card is that the overload is too big of a drawback early game. Like, one overload you can usually get around with totem spams and different cards. Like, overload can even benefit your unbound elemental. The problem with two overload is that, like, if you use it on turn 2, then you can play nothing on turn 3. And if you use it on turn 3, then you can only get a totem where you kind of want a 3-drop. Like, it basically screws up too much. I feel in the early game, and in the late game, it's just too random. Like, the random factor is a problem in late game.
Yeah.
If they have like more than 2 minions. So yeah, I prefer the other cards, and I don't feel Forked is necessary.
Yeah, I think in general this meta right here, Shaman does really good for itself. Yeah, I think now it's time for my deck, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm the big douche here who plays Warlock Giants. What to do? So, but it works out really well, I have to say. I even mostly win against the Rush Hunters. I don't know if they're just bad or I get a little bit lucky, but I feel like in meta right now we don't see that many Hunters. They really had this small period of time on 2 or 3 days where they really exploded. And during that period of time, I played 2 Mortal Coils instead of 1, which I only play 1 of now. Apart from that, the deck is pretty stable, I feel. And it's very usual. What I did was to change the 1 Mortal Coil into a second Shadow Flame, because Shadow Flame has been testing like so crazy. And there's only 1 Hellfire in there. I know Hellfire is pretty good against the Rush variants of different decks, but I feel like 2 is too much. I'd much rather like the second Shadow Flame. Since also, like, in the mirror match, Shadow Flame is really worth its weight in gold, with the Molten Giants just crushing the enemy field like that. And Sylvanas, I play that because I feel it has such great synergy in this deck with Siphon Soul if you're really fucked, but otherwise Shadow Flame. And yeah, that's a way to do it. And I play the Iron Beaks because of a lot of things actually. Like, there are a lot of nasty effects you want to get rid of, but really a lot of times it's just to remove taunt so I can go for game. Like, if I have game on the field or already and just need to get through a taunt, you play that Iron Beak Owl, and it does whatever an owl does and remove that taunt, and then you can just hit. And yeah. And what I've heard some people asking about is it really necessary to play both Alexstrasza as well as Lord Jaraxxus?
Definitely.
And I think that it is really necessary. It's really, really good. You think about this deck is you play around these 10, 15 HP or something like that, and you have to stay there. And if you don't have Jaraxxus and Alexstrasza, you run out of healing at some point. And Jaraxxus is also basically your win condition most of the time. He's really, really great. So, any questions out there?
Yes.
I have a question.
Great.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how bad do you feel about yourself when you play this deck?
I feel so bad, but man, I win, so it's okay. But I really feel like a huge douche. Just look at me. I'm dropping 8/8 for 0. I can't do anything about it.
It's funny since I really hated this deck, and then I put one Naturalize into my own deck, and now I love to play against it. I haven't lost since. There's one question though. Shadow Flame versus Hellfire. I think you touched on it a little. Is it basically just the synergy with Sylvanas, or?
No, it's not just that. It's the fact also that
Ancient Watcher as well.
Ancient Watcher is pretty crazy with it, but not just that. Also that Hellfire, it hurts yourself. You won't think that 3 HP is much, but really it does a lot of difference in a deck where you have to fiddle around these like 10 HP or something all the time. And Shadow Flame makes you do like 8 damage. You can clear basically any minion on the field with a Shadow Flame, whereas Hellfire, it is certainly lose 3 mana, or with a Blood Mage you can get it to 4, but it doesn't make too big of a difference. I just feel like Shadow Flame is a great card. And Chris?
Yeah, okay. I have seen other versions of this this deck running Leroy Jenkins. Have you considered that? What's your thoughts on that?
I've considered it. Leroy is a great card in general, but I don't feel that I need it. I'd much rather have something to control my health or stabilize myself in the early game, where I have like really where I stand on wobbly ground if I don't get the Twilight Drakes or the Argus and the Sun Fury and the Ancient Watchers. So if I put in a Leroy and I draw that without any taunts or any kind of healing, I get really fucked. And it's not really necessary. I'm winning without it, but it's been in the considering stages for sure.
A comment on Leroy Jenkins. For this deck, I feel it is not really that great, since you are on the losing end up until turn 4 or 5. And if you have a Leroy Jenkins instead of a taunt or something in general useful, the 6 damage won't help you since they have full HP. It's a control deck, and you don't want to be drawing Leroy Jenkins when you can draw something else.
Yeah, exactly. But you can make more rushy oriented versions.
I
feel like this is like the most stable one right now, especially with the metagame slowing a bit down and everything. So
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so I think that was actually it for our decks. I hope you enjoyed that. Now, what we want to do is we kind of look into a site called explain.com, and we're going to look. That was a tournament recently, and we're going to look into some of the deck lists actually. And these tournaments will actually be each week. You can find a link to Explain down in the description. It's basically a gaming forum. It's not just Hearthstone. It's like a lot of stuff, and they plan tournaments. And it's a Danish website, so but I guess you can join if you're watching from somewhere else also. Dario or someone else, do you know the exact like dates in the week for these tournaments when they're held?
I think there will be. I'm not actually sure. I think they're still debating when to put them, but hopefully. They will take my advice and not put it on Sunday, so you can actually play. Because most Hearthstone tournaments, most Hearthstone tournaments are Sunday, and even though this is one of the few that actually has real prizes, like almost every time, like either cash or hardware or something,
Yeah, steal series so far.
Yeah, it's been pretty decent prizes for HearthStone, like more than good, like more than you can get for any other free tournament, I believe, which is pretty nice. They also have like pretty good community and such, and the tournaments are well run. Yeah, and I think there will be Wednesday and Friday tournaments, but yeah, I don't know if it's confirmed yet. But definitely, if you're a Danish Hearthstone player, check it out. If you're not Danish and still like might want to try it out, I guess you could try with Google Translate or something.
I don't know if this is exclusive Dane, but
no, it's easy.
It's just in Danish, most of it.
Yeah, we talk in Danish, so be ready
if you write an English forum post, I'm sure people will reply. They're really nice in there.
Definitely.
And when it comes to like punctuality, they're great. The tournaments are always held on time, and there's really no problems there. And,
yep.
Yeah.
So come kick my ass.
Yes. So we are definitely looking forward to see you all there in game for sure. And so what we're going to do now is actually go through the top 2 decks of the last tournament there, and it was played after the, what do you call this system exactly?
Double elimination. Basically.
Double elimination, yeah. But I mean,
that's the BlizzCon format where.
Yeah, so you have 3 decks, and when you lose one deck, you have to pick another one. So it's basically a best of 5.
A short comment on that format, actually. In the beginning, I didn't like it since you have to have a bigger collection. But I feel it is way more exciting and way more interesting to play in this format than the MLG format. Yeah, just a quick note. Since there's a lot more meta analysis going on when making 3 decks to counter specific things that you cannot just change at the fly.
Yeah, I think so too. So now if we could bring up the deck list for the second place.
Second place for which one? There's 2 second places, I think.
Just bring up the first one on your list, I guess.
For the Explain Hearthstone tournament, there should be 3 decks, I believe.
Yeah, you have 3 decks for the second place and 3 decks for the first place, right?
It's a Rogue.
Yeah, that's second place.
Okay.
Great. Yeah, I will
share it with us.
I will share it. There we go.
Nice.
There we
go. It seems like a standard rogue with Chillwind Yeti and double Assure Drake. So we just talked about it, how these 2 cards are making a comeback. So I guess this is proof.
What is really interesting, that really, I don't know, jumps into my eyes just right away, is that he plays 2 Preparation and 2 Sprint. So these 2 cards are supposed to get into synergy with each other. But apart from his Sprint, I really don't see any good Preparation choices, to be honest. I mean, he can combo with it for sure.
I'm quite sure this is the only target he wants to play it with. It's Sprint.
Yeah, but that makes it kind of situational in my opinion.
Yeah, it's interesting that he doesn't play any Fan of Knives or something like that.
Would be understandable.
And not even a Gadget Son. So, no. I don't know, I feel a 4 mana, draw 3 cards, that is situational. I'm not sure that is good, but obviously
he did a good job.
Yeah, it worked out for him.
Yeah.
I had the pleasure of playing against him in the tournament.
Now we have
Did you win or lose?
This is his second deck, I believe. It's not his starting deck, actually.
Well, you can change that, so.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Yeah. It was free for your truth.
But apart from that, it's just Control Rogue. And he also plays the 2 Yetis that we were talking about earlier. And it looks really, really stable.
Well, I mean, I'd say props to the guy for making it work. Like, many of the choices are probably... he's a pretty good player. I believe he is almost legend on EU right now. Rank 1 or something. And like he plays pretty well. I guess it fits to his play style. Like most of the choices. if I were to make the deck, I would probably switch just 2 sprints with gadgets on auctioneers, but I guess this tested better for him. I believe, as good as a player he is, he probably tried gadgets on.
What is beautiful to see is when we see these unique race of cards in a deck. So it's not just net decking all the time.
Yeah, I like it. I think the strategy, a general strategy for this deck is usually you don't see double the fires in these kinds of decks anymore, and it just seems like a way earlier deck than usual, with Fairy Dragons and the Fire's Ringleader and the Yeti and maxed out Argent Commanders as well as the Leroy Jenkins. So
and only the Black Knight and the Sylvanas for late drops actually.
Yeah,
and it's also a late drop, but it's
and the Black Knight just for removing taunt so he can get more damage in. It seems like a very rushy deck, and I guess that is the reason why he played sprints, since he wasn't Warlock, he couldn't draw every turn, so he had to get some kind of draw mechanic in there. So I like the choices.
But it's also still kind of control-ish. It's not 100% rush or fail. It's not like that. You can still come back.
Oh yeah, definitely with Yeti and Drake.
Yeah. So this was one of his decks. So maybe we could bring up the next one.
Yeah, I will. There we go. I hope. It's Paladin deck.
Yeah. And we have to mention here, actually, it says 1 land hands, but there's 2 land hands in there, which is a peculiar choice, I believe. But yet again, when he played this, there was a lot of Hunter. So in that regard, kind of makes sense. But I don't know. What do you think about the 2 layer hands here?
I think it's a funny deck in general, since it's a combination of the very late game Paladin with Ragnaros, Tyrion, double Guardian of Kings, and the double layer hands, like you just said, which isn't even used usually in the very late game version. And then you have Sword of Justice and Loot Hoarder and Fairy Dragon and Argent Protector, which is the other end of the spectrum for Paladin. These early cards abuse Sword of Justice kind of strategy, so it's a very interesting mix.
Yeah,
I think I like it. Definitely the deck worked out for him, but I feel like I prefer splitting the deck, so you either play late game or you play the early game. For instance, like if you play this mix, you will lose Divine Favor, which really carries the early game deck. And by playing the like Fairy Dragon and Loot Hoarders, you lose accessibility to like the second Consecration, the second Avenging Wrath.
Wild Pyromancer.
I feel like
this guy really has a hard on for his Fairy Dragons, I believe.
Yes, he played in the other one as well.
And the Yetis, so.
Yeah. Well, they are good.
Like, Fairy Dragons are really good.
It's an excellent card. So really, it's nice to see them getting a little comeback here. And I like his choice to only play 1 Sword of Justice. I have been in a situation myself, playing 2 where it's just clogged on my hands, and I really don't want to use it.
You have the True Silver, and then the Sword of Justice with 4 stacks, and you just have to play the True Silver. That's annoying.
Yeah, and it can force you to spam the field when you don't want to, and because you want to get your True Silver out faster. So I really like his choice here, only playing 1 of them. And 1 Consecration as well, which I find
very peculiar.
Yeah, kind of, but I mean it's.
I believe it's worth to mention that Paladin was actually his starting deck for the finals.
Yeah.
And probably for more games as well. So it's probably meant to be pretty versatile and meet a lot of like. I'd say it's pretty good starter deck. Like it's versatile in the way that it plays like the Fairy Dragons and Yetis. They're like stable choices.
It seems like continue.
No, it's just like it's got a lot. It's got some good early games, some good mid games, some good late game. It reminds me a bit of the Paladin version of your deck, Michael.
Yeah, exactly. I was I was gonna say that he has the early game to counter the rush, it seems, and then the late game to counter other kinds of decks. And with Guardian and Kings and Lay on Hands, even the late game can kinda counter the rush. So.
And even if he's like behind on turn 7 or 8, he can come back with a Lay of Hands, I believe.
Yeah.
And he also plays the big game hunter, which is nice.
Yeah,
right now,
that card is really good.
It's just a good card, I feel like, unless you come up against some rush hunter that, unless I play King Crush or something like that. Only I would be crazy enough to do that, I think. We can King Crush. But
well, even then, it's still a 4/2 monster you can play for 3 mana. Like the stats, they're not bad, and
they're
if
decent.
you pull off the effect, yeah, it just
It's worth to mention that Big Game Hunter actually trades with Yeti together with Hero Power Ping.
What?
If you Big Game Hunter trades with Yeti together with Hero Power.
Oh,
that's right.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
right.
True.
Oh, that's pretty good, I'd say. I believe it's probably like one of the only 3 drops that actually does that. So.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice. Because the 2 HP is pretty low, but it's not.
But it's not one.
That, like 2 HP, it doesn't matter that much unless your opponent has like Loot Hoarder. 2 HP dies to most of the same things that 3 HP dies to.
I'm thinking about the whole Holy Fire, not Holy Fire, but Holy Nova and Consecration.
Oh yeah,
but that's the only thing. But yeah.
Yeah. Should we load out
his next deck here?
Yeah, I'm gonna put it in the chat.
That is a wall
deck,
I believe, right?
Is that true? Yeah.
Yes, it's true. The Shaman one. Yeah.
It's a Shaman.
It's a Shaman deck, exactly.
The last one.
Yeah.
So,
now, what I see here is the 2 Wind Furies. That is something. What do you think about this?
I believe it's pretty similar to, probably had a lot of inspiration from the recent Shaman decks in Mana Grind, where they played a lot of Wind Fury together with Leroy as finisher, which is pretty decent, I guess. It becomes most of, it makes Shaman a early game oriented rush-ish deck, I guess. And like you mentioned before, Henry, like the Shaman class is versatile in that way that you can make it pretty much what you want, and this is one of the things that people didn't expect. And I believe,
rushy.
Yeah, I believe that one of the reasons why this deck did so well, it also did pretty okay for him in the finals. I believe he won 2 games with this deck, but one of the reasons it did so well is because that people didn't expect it, and then the whole issue with what do you mulligan against it and such comes up, and it can take people by surprise, especially the Leroy Wind Fury, like surprise 12 damage to the face. Yep, that's my comments on the deck.
Yeah, I think you are quite precise on your analysis. I think the one thing that really gets the deck going is the Manatite Totem, which is a really strong card. Because if you have board control, they will have to spend cards, like spells, to remove it. And as soon as you play it, it replaces itself. So it's basically just 1-for-1. And if they can't get rid of it, like you have it sitting behind your Feral Spirits, or you can just clear the monsters that they play, it will just draw you all the advantage that you need to get the deck, to get the win.
Yeah. It's an interesting trend in general how all of these decks are turning into 2 versions, with both the aggro version and the more controlish version. It goes for both Paladin even. Recently I have seen a lot of Rush Paladins, and for Shaman and for Hunter, and it's really annoying actually.
Yeah. I believe it's a very good thing though that it turns into these two different branches of playing styles. Of course, it can suck when you mulligan, of course, but it brings so much more versatility into the game. So it's not like you meet Hunter and you're like, well, yeah, Hunter. Now it's Rush. It can actually also be Control. It adds more depth to the plays, which is quite nice, I believe. Now we want to go. This was the second place, and I want to go quickly through the first place and his decks.
Worth to mention is that the second place player came from lower bracket, so he had to play the first place that came from upper bracket, where it's made in such a format that you have to win 2 best of fives. And he actually won the first best of 5, the second place player, and then he lost the second best of 5, which made him lose the match.
Who was the first place winner, actually?
The first place winner was the player called Cupcake.
Oh, not him again. Oh, well.
Okay.
No personal vendetta here.
His first deck is some kind of giant warlock, right?
Yeah, giant block.
Yeah. So what I see is it looks like the one that we saw before.
Ragnaros.
Some changes is he plays Ragnaros in here. He plays 2 Hellfire and only 1 Shadow Flame. And he plays Shadow Bolt. I also did that, I believe.
He doesn't play...
and he plays 1 Mortal Coil.
The 9-drop, the Warlock Legendary.
Oh!
He does do that.
It's probably
my assumption is that he
money.
doesn't have the card.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that. He plays Ragnaros instead. Maybe it's personal preference. I just really think Jaraxxus is so amazing because it heals you like that. And if you can get it out on an empty board, you can just spam those 6/6s and they can come back.
Yeah. I agree that I like your build more, but obviously this one. It's very close. It's only like 2 cards difference. So I guess.
Yeah, you're right. But it works how it works, and it is quite a stable deck, as mentioned. Not many cards can be really switched out.
Yeah.
In order for it to work properly, so I think that's about it for this one.
He also prefers, worth mentioning, is he prefers the 2 Hellfire over 2 Shadow Flame.
Yeah, I mentioned that.
Where, I actually, personally, I would prefer the 2 Shadow Flame.
I absolutely agree. I like the point earlier about Hellfire damaging yourself. And Shadow Flame, there's just so many great target, Ancient Watcher and the Giants that come out very cheap and can field wipe everything, even big dudes. So.
Yeah. So now his next deck is a priest deck.
It's called Bummelum.
Bummelum. In this deck, we need 1 more mind control.
Yeah, there's a mind control in button. That we didn't see, I guess, scroll bar or something.
Yeah.
So.
My dear.
I got fucked over by this deck very hard. Especially the double Voodoo Doctors, they raped me multiple times. So.
I have an idea that this is very much to counter the Rush Hunter deck that was there.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just when I look at it, like he has the mind control tech as well.
Yeah, it might be actually. But then he has the big game. Yeah, the mind control tech. That's true. I guess that's a reasonable assumption.
Yeah.
But
but yet again, he plays 2 Shadow with Death, so it's not to counter the Hunter.
I think the mind control tag is really bad against Hunter Rush.
Yeah, I have never seen more than 1 or 2 creatures really.
No.
But
maybe
I really like the idea about Voodoo Doctor comboing with Soul Priest.
Yeah.
That's a really nice combo.
And also with Injured Blade Master, Voodoo Doctor allows you to get it up to Yeti Strength at 4 mana instead of 5 mana. If you don't have Circle of Healing, of course.
Yeah. And you also have a Yeti in here, as well as a Dark Iron Dwarf. As we actually mentioned earlier, it's pretty good in Priest, Dark Iron Dwarf.
Yeah. Especially with big game hunter as well. Yeah. If you Dark Iron Dwarf, you can throw it out on something like I actually don't know what has 6 attack
Ancient of Law.
Yeah, Ancient of Law, and then shoot it, or Ancient of War.
Yeah,
yeah. Or Sylvanas, I guess, if you're really desperate. So.
Yeah, and then the 1 Circle of Healing, of course, is nice. The Voodoo Doctor is, I feel, what makes this deck really unique, as well as the mind control tech.
Yeah, I
Pretty
think
cool little tech he has going in there.
I like the Voodoo Doctor tech, but I dislike the mind control tech.
Yeah, he clearly must have had
Oh.
some. He clearly must have some greater idea with this deck. I feel since he's playing mind control tech, like he expected to come up against a certain kind of deck. I feel.
Yeah, you go.
Okay, one note on mind control tech. Like it's 3 mana, 3/3 drop, which is it's not good, but it's like decent, right? But if you pull off the effect, it's just insane value for 3 mana. My problem with it, I tried tagging it into priest. The problem was once I spent mana using it, I got a monster and I just got rushed down because it didn't remove any pressure. So even if I just remove one monster from a field that has at least 4 cards, he will still have 3 cards, and I won't have a taunter unless I'm lucky enough to steal one.
Yeah.
And thus I still have really huge trouble with the
I agree
rest
completely.
of the field.
Yeah, 100%.
Most definitely.
Also,
Yeah,
worth
Go ahead.
mentioning is that when we say mind control tech, it's not a mind control that's teched. It's the card mind control.
Yeah.
Tech. that got me a bit confused at first.
It's mind control tech, you know.
Yeah.
I think
he
you got
actually
the point
plays
that
a mind control as well.
Yeah, the standard mind control is just a good card. I feel. So I don't know. I don't think we should touch too much on that one. Why he would choose to
Just to clarify.
Yeah.
Now, should we go to his last deck, or do we have any?
I have no more.
Yeah. So the last deck of his is the Shaman deck.
And like you said before, I think this guy has a hard-on for mind control tech. It's in here as well.
Looks like it.
And I don't like it.
No, probably it tests out pretty good for him.
I also dislike his hard on. That's another story.
Especially because it's the dwarf with a pink beard. It's pretty but
it's fabulous.
He actually plays a Yeti and a Dark Iron Dwarf, one of each in both of these control decks.
It's weird.
That's an interesting combo. I feel like he must have tested this and found out that's the best way to put it, like one of each.
Way too strong.
I really like Dark Iron Dwarf in Shaman a lot because it allows you to trade your totems for monsters, which is just 0 for 1. And I guess you guys agreed that Sheldon Yeti was a really strong card. So in that way, you can see where he plays Yeti. But I think I'd play the second Dwarf over the Yeti. So that might just be my preference.
Take a look at
Just
the
don't
last card.
too much at the stables here. Let's look at cards like Argent Squire, for example.
What do you think about
this girl here? I don't know if I like it too much in Shaman, but he has it if he's overloaded or something. He can drop her. I don't know.
I'm trying to find Flame Tongue.
Yeah,
but there's no Flame Tongue. Then Argent Squire seems weird to me, at least.
Maybe it's because he can exchange it with hexed minions and not lose a Divine Shield.
I guess
like
Hunter.
Yeah, maybe Hunter. Yeah.
Is Hunter a problem? Dorothor?
But if it's against Hunter, then he would play 2 Feral Spirit. I feel, but
yeah.
I don't know. I kind of I play Shaman myself, so I've actually thought about Argent Squire, but I always come to the conclusion that there are just cards I would much rather draw, and Argent Squire is only good in first turn. I feel.
Yeah, in this deck, there's with no Flame Tongue.
Even first turn, its use is usually limited in Shaman.
Yeah.
What do you feel about the Alexstrasza here?
Well, many people actually, or not many people, but
I've seen it before in Shaman as well. Actually,
I've seen it before in Shaman as well, and it's basically your solution to why does Shaman have no heal spells? So you play Alexstrasza to heal yourself. And that's usually the reason you play it. Like most of the time you won't use it on your opponent. You'll use it on yourself to heal.
A note on that, I have okay, to be fair, this guy plays Argent Squire, but I've played against Shamans that goes for late game, so they basically don't touch you. The entire game leaves you at 30 health, and then the Alexstrasza comes out and throws 1.5 Fireball, Pyroblast, and an 8/8 monster on the field. and that that is quite devastating.
Yeah.
I guess, but yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, I think
It's a good card, and I would probably try it out if I had it, but sadly I don't. But I feel like it's more of a tech rather than like a staple for the deck. But
Definitely.
I don't know about that.
Another comment on the Argent Squire: if you're using it for rush, why are you not playing second Feral Spirit?
Yeah.
or Flame Tongue Totems, please.
It's just something to. It seems like just a mesh of stuff here. It is quite consistent, yes, but there are some pieces that I feel could be better cards.
Yeah.
Just,
I guess.
but he won, so I mean we can't blame him. But
We should start winning. If this is winning, then we should. Just kidding. Yeah. So.
okay.
Like I feel like this deck does really well, but it has a lot of situational cards that I personally prefer not to play like really situational cards like Mind Control Tech. Yeah, that's just my opinion. Like I would never play Mind Control Tech, I think.
Yeah. and if he like continues, because we can see that in almost all his decks he has a Mind Control Tech. So maybe it'll come back to bite him in the ass if people start playing like this guy has a Mind Control Tech. So
Yeah.
I'll not play more than 4 minutes.
Yeah. You guys told me he had one, and then I played. I was close to playing the 4th minion. Then you told me, I was like, yeah, okay.
So I believe
Now
on
it
the
is
ladder-
useless.
on the ladder, it's better than in the
But
tournament.
really, but really,
yet again,
still,
he can also just next time he can play something else, and everybody will be scared to play a lot of minions, and so
evil
it's kind of
tactic.
a mind thing suddenly.
The Mind Control Tech gets into your mind, and then it's a really cool tech.
Mind fuck tech. So now the next little part here, we are done with the tournament here, and we'll definitely encourage all of you to join up and try this out. It's for free, and you just have to sign up, send in your deck list, and then you're basically good to go. And people just add you in game, and you can play together. It's pretty cool. So now maybe we should talk a bit about the deck that is trending right now. It's a Strife-Crow's Druid deck, and is it on the screen yet, Michael?
Yeah.
Great. So I think Dario has some thoughts about this.
Well, basically, this is the deck that has brought many people to Legend. Like when you watch streams, people usually praise this deck and say it's one of the most amazing decks ever. And personally, I've just tried it out, albeit a bit different version, but definitely sort of like it. And when you think about it, it makes pretty good sense. Like Druids usually have some issues closing out games, and this deck definitely gives you a pretty insane win condition. Like with the Yetis and the Azure Drakes and the Druids of the Claw, if you have a 4 damage minion on the field on turn 9, and you play Force of Nature and what's it called?
Savage Roar, I guess.
Then you have literally 20 damage, like on turn 9. 20 damage. That's 2 Pyroblasts on turn 9. It's completely insane.
That is why you play Mind Control Tech. No.
Yeah, I guess. But that's too late.
Yeah, you already did.
That don't make no sense. But the deck basically just goes for control. Like you start off with really valuable cards like Harvest Golems and your removal spells, and then you maybe innervate a Yeti out. You have really valuable cards like Yeti, Azure Drake, Druid of the Claw, and such cards that are good for their mana cost.
And the Sun Furies. One here, actually.
Yeah, they give you. I guess the Sun Furies are mostly really good against the Hunter deck. Like you can basically just
That's
stop.
why they're there, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And like you basically play control, and then you poke a bit, and then when they get below 20 health, you just rush for game, and you end the game at turn 9. And it's a pretty good deck. Like I've played it to great success, and
Great.
It basically started the whole vibe of Yeti is really fucking good. And once again,
we see it here again.
Yeah.
And it's really not a bad deck late game. It still has some plays late game, so
Yeah.
it's not like rush. It's actually pretty consistent in all phases of the game, I feel. Yeah.
That's
So-
why, like, once again, Strife Crow just shows how good at the game he is. Like, he is really good at Hearthstone.
Yeah, he's great at building decks.
Yeah, and sometimes he's like the meta creator or something. Like when he plays something on stream, you can be pretty damn sure that within half an hour, everybody on the freaking ladder is playing his deck. So better come up with the counter as soon as possible. Now the last thing we're going to do here before we round up this podcast is we have a little challenge going on between the four of us. So we pick some unconventional cards that are maybe not being played too much, but we still feel they're pretty viable in some way that just haven't been tested yet. So today, the lucky star here is the Violet Teacher. So till next week, we are going to create a deck with Violet Teacher, and we'll show it next week, as well as some highlights from some games we had, and explaining some plays and so on. And the rules are that we get a random class each, random hero class. And today we won't be talking too much about our choices and what could be good, what could be not so good. So you'll have that for next time. So I think Michael has a randomizer somewhere, so we can find out who gets which class to have fun with.
To have fun with.
To have some fun with the Violet Teacher.
Let's see here.
It's important to note that that the point of this, I guess, challenge is not to make like a really OP viable deck.
No.
It's mostly to test the card out.
Yeah, and not just that, it's also to prove that variety in decks is possible, and
it is fun.
It's fun to try out new decks. Don't just go in there and net deck the top deck and play with that. Just try to figure out for yourself. Maybe you will create the next meta. Who knows?
I'm trying to figure out which classes I'm missing here.
There is like
Hunter, Warrior, Mage, Paladin.
Hunter, Warrior. Whoa. Yeah.
Whoa.
I have 6 classes, so I'm Warlock.
Did you have Priest?
Nope.
Shaman?
There we go. Priest.
Do you have everything?
Yeah. So
You have
so
9.
basically there's 8. Oh, there's 9.
Okay.
I'm missing
You're
one.
so good at the game, you don't know the
Hunter.
classes.
I'll go through it. Druid, Hunter, Mage, Paladin, Priest, Rogue, Shaman, Warlock, Warrior.
Shaman. Great.
Great.
So
Way too long.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
The way we are gonna do
Someone
this is Henry will be number 1, Hirudra will be number 2, Dorathor will be number 3, and I will be number 4, and then we'll just randomize one list here. So, Henry, he gets the Hunter deck.
Yes.
Great. I'm really looking forward to that one. Yeah.
And
Violet Hunter.
Violet Hunter. She's not a beast.
She's not.
Hirudra gets Warrior. So good luck with that. Dorathor gets Warlock. And I get Priest.
Oh.
So I'm actually a little disappointed I didn't get Druid, since I really want to make the wombo combos, but whatever.
So till next week, we're going to brainstorm these decks, and we're going to show them next week, and hopefully have a lot of fun. And what we want you to do, actually, if you're watching, is to write some cards that you would like us to play, and we'll get into that. And also, as we're rounding up here, we would really appreciate if you send us some PMs with some improvements that you think could be made or something like that. We really want to take advice here, because we're just starting up and there's always things to improve all the time, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and you'll find the links to the timestamps in the bottom, as I said before, and also to explain if you want to check that out. You definitely should. It is an amazing site. I think that's pretty much it. Do you have something to say to round it up, guys?
I guess play some fun decks. Try to build a deck with Valid Teacher and see if you can climb to Legendary, since we definitely can't.
Well,
with Valid Teacher deck, that is.
and maybe some shoutouts, I guess.
Yeah.
If anybody has any shoutouts.
I will shout out Henry for being a great host.
Oh, thank you so much.
And I will shout out to my bed, since I have to go to sleep now. So
yeah. Shout out to Dario's mom for making excellent burritos.
So,
I approve. I would like to make a shout out to Lightwell, the most OP card in the game. You should definitely play it because it wins all of your games.
Lightwell.
There you go.
Sick shit. Chris, round it up. You got the last word here before we round it off.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I have any shoutouts, but I go out, play some games, have a good time. Go out with your friends. Yeah, have a good time.
Friends, yes.
Friends.
Nice.
Yeah.
So see you guys next week. Hopefully it'll be Sunday next time, but we'll see about that. Yeah. So bye bye.